Have you ever wondered why anxiety seems to grow louder after 40, even when life looks stable on the outside? You may have built a career, raised a family, developed resilience through decades of experience, and yet subtle waves of unease, irritability, restless sleep, or unexplained tension begin to surface more often than before. Many people assume this is simply the weight of responsibilities or the pressure of aging, but beneath those surface explanations, something deeper is happening inside the body. After 40, your biology begins to shift in powerful and interconnected ways. The gut, the brain, and your hormones are engaged in constant communication through what researchers call the gut-brain hormone axis. And when this system falls out of balance, anxiety can quietly intensify. The gut is not just a digestive organ, it is a complex ecosystem containing trillions of bacteria that influence inflammation, immune activity, and even the production of neurotransmitters. Nearly 90% of serotonin, a key chemical involved in mood stability, is produced in the gut. Certain beneficial bacteria help regulate the availability of serotonin and also influence gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA, the neurotransmitter responsible for calming the nervous system. When the microbiome becomes imbalanced due to poor diet, chronic stress, lack of sleep, medications, or reduced microbial diversity, the signals sent from the gut to the brain begin to change. Instead of promoting steadiness and resilience, the system may amplify worry, sensitivity, and emotional reactivity. At the same time, chronic stress elevates cortisol, the primary stress hormone released by the adrenal glands. While cortisol is essential for survival in short bursts, prolonged elevation can damage the gut lining, increase intestinal permeability, and promote systemic inflammation. When the gut barrier becomes compromised, inflammatory molecules can circulate more freely in the bloodstream, affecting brain function and heightening anxiety responses. The brain, sensing inflammation and stress signals, becomes more vigilant and reactive, which can lead to racing thoughts, difficulty relaxing, and disrupted sleep patterns. After 40, hormonal fluctuations add another layer of complexity. In women, estrogen and progesterone levels may begin to fluctuate during perimenopause, and in men, testosterone gradually declines over time. Thyroid hormone regulation can also shift subtly in midlife. These hormones do far more than regulate reproduction or metabolism. They directly influence neurotransmitter sensitivity, brain plasticity, and stress tolerance. Estrogen, for example, supports serotonin activity and modulates the stress response. So when levels become unstable, the nervous system may feel more fragile. Progesterone has calming, GABA-supportive properties, and lower levels can reduce that natural buffer against anxiety. Testosterone plays a role in confidence, motivation, and emotional steadiness, and gradual decline may contribute to mood changes. As these hormonal shifts intersect with gut imbalances and chronic cortisol exposure, the entire system becomes more sensitive. What once felt manageable may now trigger a stronger physiological response. Sleep disturbances, blood sugar fluctuations, and increased inflammatory load further strain the system, creating a cycle that reinforces anxiety. Instead of viewing midlife anxiety as purely psychological, it becomes clear that it often reflects a biological conversation happening beneath awareness. The gut influences the brain, hormones influence both, and stress feeds back into the gut again, forming a loop that can either stabilize or destabilize emotional health. Understanding this connection is the first step toward regaining control, because when you begin to support the gut-brain hormone axis, you are not just calming your thoughts, you are recalibrating the internal networks that shape how you experience stress, mood, and resilience after 40. As this intricate gut-brain hormone network becomes more vulnerable in midlife, the effects rarely appear all at once. Instead, they unfold gradually, often disguised as ordinary stress. You might notice that small inconveniences provoke disproportionate frustration, that sleep becomes lighter and more fragmented, or that your mind feels wired at night even when your body is exhausted. These changes are not random. They reflect a nervous system that has become more reactive due to overlapping biological pressures. One of the central drivers is the microbiome itself. Over decades, dietary patterns, repeated antibiotic exposure, environmental toxins, and chronic psychological stress can reduce microbial diversity. A less diverse microbiome tends to produce fewer short-chain fatty acids, compounds that help regulate inflammation and maintain the integrity of the gut lining. Without adequate production of these protective molecules, low-grade inflammation can rise quietly in the background. Inflammation does not stay confined to the digestive tract. It influences brain signaling, alters neurotransmitter metabolism, and increases sensitivity to stress hormones. When inflammatory markers are elevated, the brain may interpret neutral events as threatening, increasing vigilance and worry. Blood sugar instability further amplifies this effect. After 40, insulin sensitivity may decline, especially in individuals with sedentary lifestyles or diets high in refined carbohydrates. Rapid spikes and crashes in blood sugar stimulate cortisol release, placing additional strain on the adrenal system. Each spike acts as a stress signal, and over time, repeated activation can exhaust the body's capacity to regulate itself smoothly. The result is a cycle in which unstable glucose levels provoke anxiety symptoms, which then drive cravings and irregular eating patterns, perpetuating the imbalance. Sleep disruption compounds the issue. Deep sleep is essential for hormonal regulation, inflammatory control, and emotional processing. However, fluctuating estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, and thyroid hormones can disturb circadian rhythms and reduce sleep quality. When sleep becomes fragmented, cortisol levels may rise earlier in the morning and remain elevated throughout the day. Elevated evening cortisol makes it difficult to wind down, creating a pattern of mental overactivity at night. This lack of restorative sleep weakens resilience the following day, making the nervous system more reactive to even minor stressors. Over time, the combination of microbial imbalance, inflammation, blood sugar volatility, and hormonal fluctuation reshapes stress perception itself. The amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, becomes more sensitive, while the prefrontal cortex, responsible for rational regulation and perspective, may struggle to exert the same calming influence. This neurological shift explains why logical reassurance alone often fails to reduce midlife anxiety. The body is generating physiological signals that override conscious reasoning. Thyroid function also deserves attention in this conversation. Even subtle shifts in thyroid hormones can influence energy levels, mood stability, and cognitive clarity. When thyroid regulation declines, symptoms such as fatigue, brain fog, irritability, and heightened anxiety can emerge. Because thyroid hormones interact with both cortisol and sex hormones, small imbalances may ripple through the entire system. The immune system adds another layer to this interconnected network. As the gut lining becomes more permeable, immune activation increases, and cytokines, chemical messengers of inflammation, can influence neurotransmitter pathways. These cytokines may alter serotonin metabolism and reduce dopamine signaling, contributing not only to anxiety but also to low motivation and mood swings. What makes this particularly challenging after 40 is that the buffering capacity of the system has decreased. In younger years, hormonal levels are typically more robust, microbial diversity may be higher, and stress recovery mechanisms are more flexible. In midlife, the margin for imbalance narrows. Small disruptions that once passed unnoticed now produce noticeable emotional shifts. Recognizing this pattern is empowering because it reframes anxiety not as weakness or personal failure, but as a biological signal. The body is asking for recalibration. Instead of fighting symptoms in isolation, the goal becomes restoring harmony within the gut-brain hormone axis, strengthening the foundation that governs mood, resilience, and stress tolerance. Understanding this connection is the first step toward regaining control, because when you begin to support the gut-brain hormone axis, you are not just calming your thoughts, you are recalibrating the internal networks that shape how you experience stress, mood, and resilience after 40. The encouraging reality is that this system is not fixed in decline. It is dynamic and responsive, and even after 40, meaningful change is possible when the right foundations are strengthened. Supporting the gut-brain hormone axis begins with restoring microbial diversity through intentional nutrition. A diet rich in varied plant fibers provides the raw material that beneficial bacteria need to thrive. Vegetables, legumes, seeds, nuts, and low-glycemic fruits deliver prebiotic fibers that feed microbes responsible for producing short-chain fatty acids, which help reduce inflammation and reinforce the intestinal barrier. Polyphenol-rich foods such as berries, green tea, olive oil, and colorful vegetables further nourish microbial balance while acting as antioxidants within the body. Diversity is more powerful than perfection. Consistently rotating whole foods encourages a broader microbial ecosystem, which strengthens communication between the gut and the brain. Stabilizing blood sugar is equally essential. Balanced meals that include protein, healthy fats, and fiber slow glucose absorption and prevent the rapid spikes that trigger cortisol surges. When blood sugar remains steady, the nervous system receives fewer emergency signals, allowing stress hormones to normalize. Regular meal timing also reinforces circadian rhythms, supporting hormonal balance and reducing evening anxiety. Hydration plays a subtle but important role as well, since even mild dehydration can elevate cortisol and impair cognitive clarity. Stress regulation techniques become more impactful in midlife, because the nervous system may require more deliberate cues of safety. Slow breathing practices, particularly those that extend the exhale, stimulate the vagus nerve and shift the body toward parasympathetic dominance. Gentle movement, such as walking, strength training, or yoga, enhances insulin sensitivity, lowers inflammation, and improves mood-regulating neurotransmitter activity. Exposure to natural light in the morning anchors circadian rhythms, supporting cortisol timing and melatonin production later at night. Sleep optimization should be treated as non-negotiable. Creating a consistent bedtime routine, limiting late evening screen exposure, and maintaining a cool, dark sleep environment can significantly improve hormonal regulation. When sleep deepens, growth hormone release improves tissue repair, inflammatory markers decline, and emotional processing becomes more efficient. Over time, consistent restorative sleep recalibrates the stress response, reducing baseline anxiety levels. Hormonal support may also require attention through medical evaluation, especially if symptoms are pronounced. Assessing thyroid function, sex hormone levels, and adrenal patterns can clarify whether targeted interventions are needed. However, even without medical therapies, lifestyle strategies often create meaningful shifts because hormones respond to metabolic stability, reduced inflammation, and improved sleep. Limiting alcohol and ultra-processed foods further decreases inflammatory burden and protects the gut lining. Fermented foods such as yogurt, kefir, sauerkraut, and kimchi can introduce beneficial bacteria that support neurotransmitter balance, though they work best alongside a fiber-rich diet. Perhaps most importantly, reframing anxiety as a signal rather than an identity transforms the healing process. When you understand that your mood is influenced by microbial metabolites, cortisol rhythms, inflammatory pathways, and hormonal transitions, you begin to approach symptoms with curiosity instead of self-criticism. Midlife does not have to mean escalating anxiety. It can become a period of deeper biological awareness and intentional recalibration. By strengthening the gut barrier, diversifying the microbiome, stabilizing blood sugar, improving sleep, and practicing consistent stress regulation, you reinforce the communication pathways that keep the brain calm and the nervous system resilient. The gut sends steadier signals, hormones regain rhythm, inflammation declines, and emotional stability gradually returns. This is not about chasing perfection, but about building daily habits that restore balance within an interconnected system. When the gut, brain, and hormones operate in harmony, anxiety loses much of its intensity and a renewed sense of calm becomes possible after 40. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early. Instead of fighting symptoms in isolation, the goal becomes restoring harmony within the gut-brain hormone axis, strengthening the foundation that governs mood, resilience, and stress tolerance. Understanding this connection is the first step toward regaining control because when you begin to support the gut-brain hormone axis, you are not just calming your thoughts. You are recalibrating the internal networks that shape how you experience stress, mood, and resilience after 40.